Places to go.
Welcome to Places to Go, the podcast from Plazy. I'm Paul from the travel platform, which brings you lazy planning for your trip. On Plazy, you can put together your own personal travel guide for selected destinations. And then you no longer have to scroll through long hit lists on the net, but get exactly the tips that suit you. One of the destinations on Plazy is Hamburg, so you can also find your own personalized tips for this city. But maybe you're just looking for an overview of this city, an initial orientation, and we're happy to help here too. Plazy is now also available as a podcast. And with Places to Go, we also want to make it as lazy as possible for you and give you tips in under 10 minutes that will make your trip better. We have picked out a few particularly exciting places in Hamburg for you, real places to go, which I will introduce to you in more detail in individual episodes. For example, Hamburg's most popular district, the Schanze, and a very special museum. But in this episode, I want to give you an overview. So here are our Hamburg basics. Arriving and getting around. Whether you are flying to Hamburg or traveling by bus or train, you can easily switch to public transport here. An S-Bahn train runs from the airport to the city center and the 3 long-distance train stations in the city center. The main station and the Damtor and Altona stations are also well connected to the transport network. One more note. Since the beginning of 2024, the Hamburg Transport Association has switched to cashless tickets. This means that you can no longer buy your ticket on the bus from the bus driver, but must either do so in advance at the ticket machines in the stations, or you can download the HVV app. We'll put the link to it in our show notes. Of course, there's also Uber and cabs, which you can book with the FreeNow app, for example. And Hamburg was one of the first cities with shared cabs from Moya. The links to these 3 services are also included in the show notes. The nicest districts. Even if it sounds mean for Barmbek, Wandsbek, Ham, and Horn, the districts west of the Alster are the more exciting ones. The Schanzenviertel and St. Pauli are particularly popular with younger Hamburg residents and visitors. Here, you'll find lots of pubs and restaurants, cool and individual clothes stores. There's simply a lot going on here. However, there are also very different corners in these districts, especially in St. Pauli. You probably all know the Reeperbahn with its sex clubs, but above all, clubs, bars, and musicals, where there's a lot going on Friday and Saturday evenings. But in the parallel streets to the north, especially Paul Rosenstrasse and Paulinenplatz, St. Pauli isn't quite so trendy and has really nice little stores. Ottensen and Eimsbüttel are a little quieter and greener and very popular with families. You'll find stores there too, but also lots of cozy cafes, playgrounds, and small neighborhood parks. And north of the Alster in Eppendorf, Winterhude, and Harvestehude, things quickly get really chic. Alster or Elbe. Both bodies of water have their fan clubs. The Elbe, where you can even find a stretch of beach in Övelgönne, for example, and where you can look out over Hamburg's harbor. There's more of a raw industrial romanticism here. You can see the loading cranes, the large container ships. It's a bit of a big wide world here. After all, the port of Hamburg is the 3rd largest in Europe, one of the 20 largest ports in the world, and has long been connecting Hamburg with other countries. Even in the Hanseatic period in the Middle Ages, a lot of valuable cargo came into the city via the Elbe, and the famous Speicherstadt warehouse district from the late 19th century was built to store all the carpets, tea, and coffee that arrived here by ship. Excursion boats also depart regularly from the Landungsbrücken for harbor tours. And here's a tip if you want something a little cheaper. Local public transport in Hamburg also includes passenger ferries that travel on the Elbe for the price of a normal bus ticket. The section between the Landungsbrücken in the city center and Övelgönne, a little further west, with its sandy beach and small museum harbor, is particularly popular. Of course, there are also excursion boats on the Alster, for example, from Jungfernstieg. But what I find even more charming is renting a canoe and paddling yourself. Then you can not only cross the Alster itself, but also enter the canals and experience a completely different Hamburg. We'll put the address of a canoe rental company in the show notes. And let me explain the setting with the canals. Contrary to what you might think at first glance, the Alster is not a lake, but a river that was dammed in the 12th century to feed a large corn mill. Today you will find Hamburg's most chic sides here, on the inner Alster in the center, for example. The Jungfernstieg, with Hamburg's town hall and the elegant shopping arcades, and on the banks of the outer Alster, quite sophisticated villas. The loop around the Alster is also Hamburg's most popular jogging route, 7.4 kilometers long, but you can, of course, also take a leisurely stroll along it. A cliché that is true, the saying about the gateway to the world. Over the centuries, the port has led to a very special cosmopolitanism, which is also reflected in the population. Of the almost 2 million people in Hamburg, more than 37% have a migration background. One of the best places to experience this cosmopolitanism is Ditmarkolstrasse in the Portuguese Quarter in Neustadt. Sit down in a pastelaria, drink a galao, and feel like you're in the South. A rumor that is not true. There are no tickets for the Elfi anyway. Not true. On the contrary, tickets are surprisingly often still available, even if it's smart to book in advance. The easiest way to get tickets is directly from the ticket store. The link is included in the show notes. It's worth going inside, especially in the large hall. No seat here is more than 30 meters away from the stage, and the gradient in which the rows of seats are arranged one above the other is impressive. And it doesn't always have to be the most expensive ticket. The director of the Elfi himself has said, the cheaper seats are the ones with the best acoustics. So, the plaza, the Elfi's viewing platform, is great, but it's even better to actually listen to music here. Finally, a specialty that you should definitely try in Hamburg can be found at any bakery here. A Franzbrötchen. Very sweet and cinnamony, a little sticky, but really good and much more appealing than Labskaus, which is an indefinable melange of potatoes, beet, corned beef, and fried egg. We also have a little fun fact about Hamburg. Even though the city is really quite flat, the highest point here is just 116 meters. Of all the German states, Hamburg has the most active skiers. The March vacation, which only exists here, is even unofficially called the ski vacation. I hope this podcast has whetted your appetite for Hamburg and given you an initial overview. If you would like more specific tips, then listen to the other episodes of Places to Go and create your own personal travel guide for Hamburg at plazy.travel. It's quick and easy, you don't have to register, and you don't have to download or pay anything. Follow our podcast Places to Go. We have scouted many more exciting travel destinations in Germany and around the world for you. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating or a comment. We would be very happy about it.